Okay, so this is where things changed a lot, like day one. Is we had
This wasn't even on the plan.
This wasn't on the plan. All right, so we're checking out this job site. Ryan actually went to the first console, and then I kicked him off the project. Just kidding.
Yeah. It's been a while since I was here for sure.
Yeah, well, we kind of like flopped the leads on different projects, and so we made a lot of changes. So I want to just catch him up on what we're doing on this one.
So what's going on back there?
So I think one of the biggest goals was to reduce the lawn. Like, she liked having the lawn, but she had a few factors that were really limiting her. One is that giant pepper tree over there.
Yeah.
And then the other was we're in a drought, and she doesn't want to spend all that time. And you know, she has grandkids, but they don't need the whole yard to be a lawn.
Patio.
This area. This is our mortared flagstone patio.
Nice. Looks good.
Of
so
course,
far.
though, the only stone that we really liked only comes in 2 inches thick, so it's going to be a beefy patio.
Well, it's not gonna crack.
Okay, this back here I'm really excited about. So I wanted to go with the idea of taking some of those flagstones, bring them to the space. We'll mortar set the edges so that it's really nice and set. We'll have a border that goes along the outside of that patio, and that leads us into this brand new thing that we decided to do on the first day of the project. This wasn't on the plan.
Okay.
So we had the DG going through here, and it was like a mini like bistro pad. Like, basically, again, the goal was let's not put grass here because it's hard to grow with these pepper trees.
Right.
So let's make this like we were having a water feature there, and rocks, and like a little bistro pad, tiny.
Okay.
And then she came out here and she sat. She's like, "Man, this would be great as a fire pit." Well, if it's a fire pit, it needs to be bigger.
Bigger, yeah.
I want to move the water because I feel it's like, I don't know, I don't like it there. So I'd like to move it over here. That's like, and that's on center with the door.
Yeah, I like that a lot better too.
And then we'll have our Cameron 4x8 edging along the flagstone here. So we have natural stepping here, and that's another change to make up. Is instead of mortaring any of this in, we're gonna go just ahead and get the thicker stuff and dry set it throughout here. Just like stepping stone.
Yeah.
Again, this was all grass too. Like, no point having the grass over here. Who's gonna use this? Quite soft, right?
So this is what I originally talked to her about.
This is where the project started.
This is what we started with. Was she wanted a space where she could garden, right? She wanted some raised planters. She wanted a potting bench. She wanted a shed. And she wanted maybe some other type of feature in an area where the grandkids could help out or play and grow some stuff too.
Sure. Yeah.
So where are we?
That's where you started. We're gonna have a decomposed granite path, or maybe flagstone, depending on what. As of now, it's DG, but if we have enough over flagstone, we swap it to silverstone, then whatever. Wow, that shed looks like trash.
It's borderline not a shed anymore. It's about 2 kicks away from being a pile of plastic. Well, we're replacing it. It looks like that's going to be the path, yeah?
Yeah, so we're getting a bigger shed. It's the Tremont. It's an 8x10. We're going to stick that there, and then I'm getting her a little storage bin for like cushions or whatever else, fertilizer. That'll sit here. It's nice and attractive. It's also resin, so easy to clean. And then I'm hoping that I can get her the Suncast Adirondack chairs. They have a little storage bin in them for around the fire pit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, so this is somewhat similar to what we first talked about.
Yeah, this is similar to where you started.
Evolved.
We just expanded the rest of the space.
Sounds great. It sounds like an awesome project.
Mark that where we want them. You can kind of see. That's where we have them. We moved them about 4 inches off of the edge, so that way when we drill here, it's not going to create a very vulnerable piece. If it was really close to the edge here and had like an inch, this would definitely chip off. So moving it in will help with that a little bit. And then I wanted the brass lights. As you can see, the color, they're dusty. The color is really beautiful with the flagstone. So that's why I really wanted to have the brass. Although you don't see a ton of it, you will see the top. So I got this cover, which is also brass. So it'll look really pretty just sitting on here. And so this basically sits on top of the light. And what it does is it forces the light out of each of these little areas, and so it's going to shoot around in like a 360 area. So it'll just basically highlight the top of the flagstone, which I think will be nice and subtle so you can see the space without blowing it up too much. So this is the scrap pile or smaller pieces. And I'm gonna use this for the mosaic pathway. The bigger ones I wanna use in the corners and the edges to kind of define some areas. And then all these little scraps that they cut off, I love these. They usually go into the garbage, but this is what you can create some really detailed work with. And I don't need to spend a ton of time cutting it. So again, in the corners, I want to start out with some bigger pieces. I want to actually have voids throughout this space that I'm going to use either small pieces of flagstone. I also have this parchment that the homeowner already had. And so you can see we had one of the guys wash it. And this parchment, I'm going to use a rock glue to like glue it together, Rice Krispie style. And this is going to go in between some of the joints and some of the areas. So just kind of reusing stuff that we have here to repurpose it in a way. So this is going to be our decomposed granite area. We have the base underneath it again because it compacts better than soil does. So it creates a nice solid structure for us to put the DG on. On either sides of us, we'll have our mulch and planter storage bench. And then over here, she wants to do an old school clothesline, which I think is super fun. So we're gonna put the posts in for her and she's gonna install the rest of the clothesline. But we made sure to design it so it fit a California king because that was her biggest bed. And can you imagine if you had sheets and you're like, it doesn't fit the whole space, you have to fold them. So anyways, we made sure that fit. And then this is where my shed's going, but I guess for now the guys want to use it for storage. So this will be fun. We'll just clear it off.
So right now I am standing on the flagstone patio. Made huge progress here. All the stone is set, it's been mortared down. All of our joints are ready to go. The only thing we have left in this section now is we're gonna have to drill out the holes for our lights, which are gonna be surface mounted. And then over here around the corner, we're gonna have a little bit of a kicker edge with this cobble that's gonna carry all the way around. So we've got the edge smooth cut there. It's gonna transition into more of a natural curve when we get to the grass. But around this backside, we are gonna do those cobble bricks so you have a little bit more of a formal edge and a definition around the edge of the planter area. And then right over in front of me here, all of our irrigation is set now. We've got our heads in place and ready to go because we are gonna be putting grass down. So we've run our irrigation, we're ready to go with the grass, except we're gonna have to bring in some soil amendment and of course the grass itself. That's typically gonna be more towards the end of the project though. Our natural path is moving along. A lot of the flagstone has been set. There's still quite a bit of work to be done there. So we've got some areas left that we still need to hash out. But just beyond that, we've got our fountain. This was an old fountain that the homeowner had. It was over there in the corner. They were using it as a planter, and we decided to kind of revitalize it. So we've brought it over here. We've set it in this middle section, more of a line of sight to the house itself. And we're gonna stack this back up. We're gonna kind of refurbish it. We'll get a pump and we'll get the water going on this once again. There's a few more boulders we have to bring in here to bring some height and a little bit more of some natural elements to the planters. And then the guys are finishing up, we're working on right now our DG seating area. We may end up doing a little bit more of something in this, but we're still figuring out the details on that. Right now it's going to be a mashed cobble edge and then the DG base inside. So lots of things happening. We are making a lot of progress and yeah, things are really going. I'd say in another couple of weeks it's going to be a big transformation around here.
Este área es lista para DG. How do you say DG in Spanish?
Arena.
Arena is sand.
Arena con piedra.
Arena con piedras. All right, so the last minute add-on of the fire pit is here. We're ready to build it. So we initially were gonna have this space a little bit smaller, then we bumped it out so we could have this fire pit. And we have extra material, which is great, meaning that that's what we're gonna use to build our fire pit. So this is the Cameron flagstone. They're roughly 4 by 8, but they have a lot of imperfections to them. So we're gonna have to keep that into consideration and when we're building this and putting it together. I set out 3 different styles for her. Things to consider though with this is how they're gonna be leveled. I'm gonna call this option number 1. And this is like a highly vented fire pit, which is important because if you have fire in here, you need the air to go low and feed that fire. Option number 2, which is the one I'm leaning towards, I'm calling this Stonehenge because we basically just put them on the vertical. It's easier because I don't need to worry about the different heights of these stones or if they're kind of chipped. You're only really seeing the outside. So visually, that's all. We would still have these little gaps. We could mortar those closed. And then I would like to put a fire brick in these to help stabilize it, but also just help with the with the heat in there to like have a refractory brick in there. To top this one off, I'd probably want to use a cap. These we'd probably cut to make this angle like this. And it's gonna be about, I think it's 8 plus like 3. So it's about 11 inches tall, which is a shorter fire pit, but still functional. And in fact, typically you want your fire pits to be lower than your seat height because that's where the heat comes from. It depends on the type of fire, whether you're doing wood burning or gas or propane, but gas or propane, really the heat comes from the height of the flame. So you always want to keep that in consideration when designing the height of your fire pit to the height of your seats. All right, back to option number 3. This one I just called the wall. It's a standard staggered brick layout. And obviously, again, a ton of spaces in between these. So we can cut the bricks as we need to or blocks to shape all of these. I just don't want to get into a huge project right now because we're at the end and we're just kind of throwing this project in. But it is going to be beautiful and complete. It's I would say a DIY friendly project, more or less. We'll want to keep our center here. We're going to do a 3-foot fire pit and then, oh yeah, I'm going to fill it with gravel on the bottom. So that way if it rains, it doesn't fill up, the water will be able to drain out.
The lawn looks great, and we were able to shrink the footprint down a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think it was important that we reduced the scope because there was just a ton of lawn in this space. And it also wasn't doing that well because of all the trees in the back.
Right.
So pulling it off and into this corner, giving the grandkids like lots of space to play.
And then we have our patio, which ate up some of our grass space.
Yeah,
and this space just turned out awesome.
I'm very happy with this. I love the lights.
The lights are great. We've got them set in the ground in a couple of spots and just these little brass caps. So the light just shines out and illuminates the lower space at nighttime so you can see the edge where the grass is and be able to enjoy the space. The chairs are set up, and we also added this little kicker here, which was a nice touch, I think.
Yeah.
Continues all the way around to the garden.
Kept a few of her existing plants that she wanted, and I think those will fill in nicely now that we put in like the soil fertilizers and all that stuff. And the pathway.
The pathway, you did it.
This was an adventure.
Look at it though, it looks great.
Yeah, I think the cool part is that the gravel is basically glued in between the stones. So one issue with putting small gravel near a lawn is that if it gets kicked out and you mow it, you're gonna be shooting those rocks all over the place. So
absolutely. First place it's gonna go is into your window.
Exactly. Right.
So it looks like it's loose, but it's not. It's actually fixed down. So it has the appearance that it's just filling in the joints as loose gravel, but it's a solid, allows for a solid walking space also.
And this was mortared onto a concrete pad where this was mortared in place and then has the stone in between, so it's a lot more informal. I think if everything was like this, it still looks nice, but it kind of transitions, like it steps down the formality of the yard.
And that continues almost all the way through the yard as we move across over to this area.
Yeah, where our fire pit was an add-on, like as we started the project, she's like, you know what, why don't we add a fire pit? We weren't sure we had the budget for it, but we ended up with a lot of extra material, so we spent a little extra time to put together this fire pit made out of the same flagstone that we used to edge the area. So a lot of unity of materials.
And we were able to repurpose a fountain that was here already. And so now that you have that ambiance of the fire and the water, we have both in the backyard now as well.
Yep. Oh, and then these chairs I was able to get from Suncast, which I thought were a great finishing touch. And they have the additional storage, which is super cool. And I actually really like this color with their fence, which just kind of happened.
And you know what else you can do with these? You can put ice in there, and then you can put your drinks in there, and then you don't have to go very far. When you're out here at the fire pit, you just have to sit down for a second, maybe put a blanket down under your butt, but
Ryan has
you
ideas.
got your drinks ready to go.
This is a great example of the compacted decomposed granite. Like it really is like it really is like a solid surface that you can walk on.
But still semi-permeable.
Yeah.
So it's easy to walk on, easy to roll a cart on. The homeowner likes to garden, wanted to set up a space where they could do some gardening. We added some citrus trees, so when you have wheelbarrows going back and forth over this, it's an easy path to be able to move through, to be able to walk on when you're carrying soil, carrying mulch, carrying plants, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And the new addition,
With the shed.
the shed.
So, which is a lot bigger than the one she had. I think the colors work great in the space.
The rest of the space is pretty much open. Well, we do have one other addition, right? There's going to be
a laundry rack over here, or hanging laundry, which is helpful. I like how laundry feels when it's air dried. It's a little crisp and crunchy.
Yeah.
I like that.
It has a fresh air smell to it
Yeah.
too, which all the detergents try to mimic, but all you have to do is put it out in fresh air and
Yeah.
you can get that naturally.
I think we're pretty much wrapped with this one.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it looks great. It's quite a difference from when we started. Big things to take away from this job, I think, were we were able to shrink the footprint of the grass,
Yep.
add some functional space for the homeowner to be able to entertain
Yeah.
with both her and she's got grandkids, so giving
Yeah.
space for them. And then the third one was we were really looking to give her a garden space, some
Yeah.
place that she could be active in the yard. She wanted to be able to use it as much as possible and really get out here more. And so I think we provided a space that her and her family can do that.
I think so too.
Good job.
Awesome. High five.
Oh.